Poor girl accidentally teaches a millionaire actor how to kiss. He falls in love, then discovers her biggest secret. Before we begin, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. And when it's over, be sure to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. She thought he was gay, so she offered to help him rehearse for a staged romance the company had cooked up to soften his image. It was supposed to be safe, but when she taught him how to kiss, something in him broke wide open. Now the whole world believes they're in love, but he's the billionaire CEO, and she's just the assistant who accidentally taught him how to feel again. What happens when the kiss they faked becomes the one thing neither of them can forget? Sage Monroe pushed open the double glass doors of Holston and Roth Capital with one elbow, balancing 4 iced coffees, 2 legal binders, and a half-eaten protein bar between her lips. Her badge was dangling from her hip. Her shoes were too tight, and her stomach had been in knots since 6th. Kingsia she was just the assistant, new, broke, invisible, and completely unprepared for what she was about to see. She nudged open the CEO's private office with her foot. Mr. Holston, the board packets. She froze. Time stopped. Standing in the middle of the room was Damian Holston, the billionaire heir turned CEO, corporate royalty, tabloid mystery, holding his best friend Marcus by the waist, eyes locked, faces inches apart, not arguing, not fighting, not even speaking, just hovering there, like a kiss had almost happened, or might still. Sage blinked. Then again, the coffees tilted, condensation dripping down her wrist. As her mind went blank, a brush clattered to the floor. Her knees backed into the credenza, and still neither man seemed to notice. Oh my God. She stumbled backward, heart racing, slipped behind the door like a spooked deer, and whispered, "I didn't see anything. I saw nothing." My brain deleted the footage. It's gone. Then she bolted. Her flats slapped the marble floor, all the way to the elevator. Her thoughts unraveling like her coffee-stained cardigan. Downstairs, she collapsed on the velvet bench outside HR. Damian Holston is gay. The words echoed in her head like the ping of an elevator bell. It explains everything, she whispered. The mysterious no dating policy, the zero chemistry in that charity gala video, the weird stiff arm. When the investor's daughter leaned in to hug him, Sage didn't know whether to feel relieved, disappointed, or very, very stupid. She'd been harboring a tiny, pathetic crush on a man who was very clearly unavailable. Of course he is, she mumbled. He's rich, handsome, and kind. The trifecta of unattainable. Before she could spiral any further, her office phone buzzed. Monroe, 47th floor. Now it was Kara Wicks, head of PR. Sage made the walk upstairs like she was heading to her own funeral. The doors opened to floor-to-ceiling glass. Kara stood in stilettos by the windows, clipboard in hand. "We're changing strategy," she said without looking up. "Effective today, you're assigned to Damian Holston. Full-time, media appearances, rehearsals, wardrobe prep, brand compliance." "I'm sorry." "What?" "We're staging a romantic angle for the annual Gala live stream. He needs to look warmer, human, capable of connection. You're going to help him with that." "Me? I don't even get invited to the office Christmas party." "You're invisible," Kara said flatly. "That's your superpower. Use it." 3 hours later, Sage was sitting across from Damian Holston in a private boardroom, legs crossed, trying not to shake. He was staring down at the event script in front of them, cool, composed, unreadable. "Apparently, I'm not convincing enough as a man in love," he said without humor. Sage laughed nervously. "No offense, Lucy, sir, but your last attempt at romantic made it look like you were hugging your tax attorney. A beat. Then I need help." he said. Like, rehearsing, she asked. You want to rehearse? Romance. He looked at her. Teach me. And just like that, she found herself saying, okay, but it's just practice. Totally professional. I did a few plays in college. Plus, I've seen every Nicholas Sparks movie ever made, even the bad ones. I can be your practice partner. No hidden agenda, he asked. None. She lied. Because as long as she believed he wasn't interested in women, it felt safe. But what she didn't know was that the moment she touched his hand, nothing about this was going to stay safe. Not for him, not for her, and definitely not for her heart. She thought she was helping him act like he was in love, but what she taught him was how it actually feels. Chapter 1. The Kiss That Wasn't Acting. Sage stood in front of him, pretending her knees weren't made of pudding. She had a notepad in one hand, a pen that didn't work in the other, and the very real suspicion that she had just made the worst decision of her professional life. Okay, she said, forcing a smile. Let's start with the basics. Damian Holston, billionaire CEO, looked at her like she just handed him a baby and told him to teach it algebra. The basics, he repeated. Eye contact. Romantic eye contact. Sage explained. It's the foundation of every believable love scene. Look at me like I'm the one thing in the world you don't want to lose. He hesitated. Then he looked, and for a moment, everything in her body went still. His gaze wasn't flirty. It wasn't playful. It was serious, heavy, like he was trying to read every line of her face and memorize it. Sage blinked and looked down at her notepad. Her heart wasn't ready for this. Okay, she said, clearing her throat. We'll move on to the lean-in. Damian raised an eyebrow. Is that the technical term? She nodded. You approach slowly, 1 inch at a time, like gravity is pulling you toward me. He didn't move. Damian. He took a small step forward, closer, another step. Now they were breathing the same air. Stop. He did. Barely a breath between them now. Good, Sage whispered. Now breathe with me. Together, she inhaled. He matched her, and then her voice caught. She placed his hand on her waist. Firm, but careful, she said. Like I matter. His hand didn't move, but something else did. Inside her, a flutter, a tremble. Now, she said, barely above a whisper. We hold for how long? Until one of us can't take it anymore. He gave a slow, crooked smile. Too late. Her eyes widened. She should have stepped back, laughed it off, pretended it was just a line. Instead, she stayed still, and that's when he said it. Show me what? The kiss, he said. Show me how it's supposed to feel. Sage's brain screamed in protest, but her feet didn't move. Her heart didn't listen. And her lips, well, they leaned in. The kiss was soft, careful, like they were both afraid of waking something too big to put back to sleep. 3 seconds, that's all it was. 3 seconds that rearranged everything she thought she knew. When she pulled back, she took a step away, tried to steady her voice. Good, she said. We'll work on it more next time. Damian nodded once, his eyes darker than before. Right. More practice. Sage left the room without looking back, but her hands still tingled where he'd touched her. And the kiss, it didn't feel like acting at all. Chapter 2. The video that broke the internet. The next morning, Sage arrived at the office earlier than usual, which was saying something, because Sage already lived her life 15 minutes ahead of panic. She had a stack of folders in one arm and 2 oat milk lattes in the other one for herself and one for him, because apparently she was the kind of girl who remembered how he liked his coffee, even when she told herself not to. Damian was already waiting in the private conference room. His tie was undone. His sleeves were rolled. He looked like someone who'd spent the night trying not to think too much about something that had already happened. She walked in, trying to act normal, trying to ignore the memory of his hand on her waist, of his lips, barely brushing hers. "Morning," she said, placing the coffees down. He looked up, met her eyes for just a second too long, and said, "Ready to rehearse?" She nodded, though every cell in her body screamed otherwise. They started with posture, then eye lines, then breath control. She was going through the motions, director-like, clinical, safe, hand on the cheek, she said, reaching up to guide him. But the moment his fingers touched her face, she forgot what she was supposed to say next. They were too close again, and the world got quiet. She spoke without thinking. "Try the kiss again," lightly, just a beat before the moment breaks. He nodded, no hesitation this time. He leaned in, closer, and just before their lips touched, oh my God, they both jumped apart like they'd been electrocuted. Sarah, the production assistant, stood in the doorway, phone in hand, eyes wide, grin wider. "No way," she whispered. "I caught that. That was magic." "Sarah, delete that," Sage said, face flushing crimson. "But it's come on. You two, are you dating? Or are you just absurdly good at fake chemistry? Because either way, the internet is going to explode." "We're not dating," Sage said quickly. "It's just rehearsal, right?" Sarah winked. "Rehearsal." And then she vanished. Sage and Damian stared at each other, stunned. "She wouldn't actually," Sage began. "She would," Damian said, already pulling out his phone. 10 minutes later, the video was on Instagram. 30 minutes later, it was viral. It wasn't just the video. It was the way the video looked. Dim lighting, hands grazing skin, a near kiss that felt more real than scripted. The comments came in like a tidal wave. "The chemistry. I'm melting. Who is she? And how do I apply for her job? This can't be acting. No one acts like that unless it's real. CEO love story. Yes, please." Sage stared at her screen, mouth open, breath caught. She'd never gone viral before. She'd never accidentally broken the internet. And now, she and Damian Holston were officially the internet's newest obsession. That afternoon, Kara stormed into the conference room with a look that meant trouble. "You two, office." Now, inside Kara's glass-walled kingdom, she paced like a woman walking a tightrope. "Do you know what this is?" she said, holding up her phone. Sage squinted. "Our careers imploding." "No," Kara snapped. "This is the best PR we've had in 3 years." Damian raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me." "You've humanized him," Kara said to Sage. "You've made him look adorable. People are shipping this. Your stock just doubled." Sage blinked. "Shipping? Like FedEx? Like fans? Like romance? You're a headline, sweetheart." Damian looked at Sage. "So, what do we do?" Kara didn't hesitate. "You lean in, hard." That night, Sage sat in her tiny apartment in Queens, phone buzzing every 5 seconds, watching a video of herself, almost kissing her boss, and liking it. Too much. Sometimes the kiss you don't finish says everything you're too afraid to admit. This was supposed to be pretend, so why does it feel like the beginning of something real? Chapter 3. Rules we never meant to break. Sage tried to tell herself it was just a rehearsal, just a silly video, just the internet doing what the internet does. But by Monday morning, she was a trending topic. Not the company, not Damian Holston. Her, Sage and CEO, Kissgate, office romance goals. Even her mother had texted, "Is this why you never called back on Sunday? Because you were busy making out with your boss." Sage hadn't responded. What could she even say? "No, Mom, I was fake making out with him." For corporate purposes, at the office, things felt different. Too quiet, too watchful. When she passed through the lobby, someone actually whispered, "That's her." And when the elevator doors opened on the 47th floor. Damian was already waiting, holding a paper coffee cup. For her. You're early, he said softly. You brought me coffee, she replied, voice confused. We're a headline now. I figured the least I could do was keep your caffeine levels high. She took the cup. Their fingers brushed. Too long, too carefully. Thank you, she said, trying not to look directly at him. But he was already looking at her, that same way he had during the practice kiss. Not playful, not rehearsed, just real, inside the boardroom. They sat across from each other while the PR team paced like generals preparing for battle. We have 3 late-night talk shows asking about you two, Kara said. A major streaming platform just reached out. They want to sponsor a mini documentary, The Billionaire and the Assistant. Cute. Right. Damian cleared his throat. We're not actually a couple. Kara smiled like a lion. No one cares. Sage forced a laugh. Inside, she felt like she was standing on a very thin line with no idea where it led. After the meeting, they walked back toward his office, together in silence. Not the awkward kind, the dangerous kind. The kind that lets emotions bubble up between words you don't say. You okay? Damian asked finally. No, Sage admitted. I keep thinking if I blink hard enough, it'll all go back to normal. And what would that look like? Me being invisible again. You being a mystery. The world not watching us like we're a trailer for a movie they didn't ask for. He smiled faintly. I like that version of us. Which part? The one where no one expected anything. Where we didn't have to play pretend. She looked up at him, her voice softer than she meant it to be. Are we pretending? He stopped walking. So did she. For a long second, the hallway held its breath. I don't know, he said finally. I don't know where the act ends and the real part starts. Maybe we never made that rule, she whispered. Maybe we broke it the second we kissed. That night, Sage stayed late to finish paperwork. No one asked her to finish. She told herself it was just to avoid rush hour, just to stay productive, not because the quiet office felt safer than her own thoughts. At 8, 26 p.m., Damian knocked gently on her door. Still here? He asked. Still pretending? I'm not bothered by all of this, she replied. He smiled, walked in, closed the door behind him. I was thinking. Dangerous, she joked. That we should run a few more rehearsals, just to make sure we're ready. If we're ever asked again. Asked to what? Look like we're in love. Her heart fluttered. I thought we already nailed that part. He walked closer. Too close. Then let's test it. One more scene. This time, he didn't wait for her to direct. He reached for her waist, gently, held her there, and leaned in, still pretending. He whispered, lips inches from hers. Yes, she breathed, terribly. And then he kissed her. This time, it wasn't soft or timid. It was slow, deep, anchored in everything they hadn't said. When they pulled apart, both of them breathless, Sage looked up at him. This is a bad idea. Maybe, he said, but I've followed the rules my entire life. And now, I want to know what it feels like to break the ones that never made sense in the first place. Sage stood alone in the office after he left, her lips still tingling, her heart pounding. She had come to this job for a paycheck, but somehow she taught a billionaire CEO how to kiss, and in the process, she might have taught herself how to feel again. Chapter 4. The cabin in the woods wasn't part of the plan. It started with a broken venue, a storm, a flooded hotel, a last-minute cancellation of the investor retreat that Holston and Roth had spent 3 months planning. Sage was mid-coffee sip when Kara burst into the executive lounge shouting something about backup accommodations and asset visibility. Before Sage could ask what asset she was referring to, Damian walked in holding car keys. We're relocating the weekend retreat to my place in Hudson Valley, he said calmly, like he wasn't throwing her entire emotional stability into a blender. Place, cabin, quiet. Wi-Fi, fireplace, room to think. You're coming. Obviously, Sage repeated, wondering how many more times she could survive being this close to him without combusting. They drove out of Manhattan that Friday, silence thick in the space between them. Not uncomfortable, but not innocent either. The radio played jazz, soft and slow, while she watched the city disappear behind them in the rearview mirror. I didn't peg you as a cabin kind of guy, she said eventually. I'm not, he replied, but it's the only place that doesn't ask anything of me. That made her look at him differently. She wondered how often powerful people got to be somewhere that didn't expect them to perform. By the time they arrived, the sun was slipping behind the hills. The cabin wasn't what she expected. Not sterile, not masculine and glassy. It was warm, wooden, lived in, books on the shelves, worn leather sofa, a kitchen that smelled faintly of cinnamon and coffee grounds. You cook? She asked, half joking. I used to, he said. Before what? Before life got louder than I liked. They made dinner together. Or rather, she watched him make grilled cheese like it was an Olympic event and teased him the entire time. Afterward, they sat on the couch, fire crackling, no scripts, no rehearsal, just the kind of silence that says, stay a little longer. Why me? She asked suddenly, staring into the flames. What do you mean? You could have asked anyone to help with those fake romantic scenes. Kara, an actress, your PR team. Why me? He turned to her. Because you don't try to impress me. That's because I already assume you're unimpressed, she said with a small smile. He leaned back. I've spent years surrounded by people who want something from me. But with you, you just look at me. She felt something loosen in her chest. That's because I don't know how to look at you any other way. The room got quiet again, but it was a different quiet this time. Closer, heavier, full. What happened to you? She asked, before she could stop herself. Before life got loud, he hesitated, then looked down at his hands. My mother passed away 3 years ago. She used to come to this cabin every fall, read old paperbacks, bake things no one actually wanted to eat. Sage smiled softly. Sounds like my kind of woman. After she died, I stopped coming, stopped letting people get too close. And now? She asked. He looked at her. Now you're sitting here, and I can't remember why I ever thought silence was safer. She didn't respond. She just reached over, slowly, and took his hand. They sat like that, hands intertwined, saying nothing for a long time, until finally, he turned toward her. Sage, yeah, what if we stopped pretending? Just for tonight. He kissed her before she could answer, and this time, it wasn't careful or slow. It was honest, like he'd been waiting to say something he didn't know how to say with words. She kissed him back, like her heart had been waiting for permission. And when they pulled apart, breathless, she whispered, this wasn't part of the plan. He touched her face gently, brushing her hair behind her ear. Neither were you. Later that night, after he'd fallen asleep beside her in front of the fire, Sage lay awake staring at the ceiling. She wasn't supposed to feel this. She wasn't supposed to be here. But somewhere between the drive, the grilled cheese, and the way he said her name, she'd stopped acting. 2. Chapter 5. The Ex Who Could Ruin Everything. By Monday, the glow of the cabin had faded, but the memory of it lingered like sunlight on skin. Sage didn't know what they were now. They hadn't defined it. They hadn't needed to. She just knew she felt different, like her soul had been cracked open, and something warm had moved in. At the office, Damian hadn't said much, but he didn't have to. The way he passed her a coffee before she could ask, the way his hand brushed her back when they passed each other in the hallway, the way his eyes lingered just a little too long when no one was looking. Whatever it was real until she walked in. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. The lobby was quiet. The building was calm. And then the glass doors swung open like a storm in heels. She was tall, blonde, effortless in a sleeveless black dress that looked like it had never known a wrinkle. Security didn't stop her. She didn't slow down. Her heels clicked across the marble like gunshots, and then she turned toward reception. "Tell Damian I'm here," she said, with a smile that could freeze fire. Sage watched from across the lobby, stomach tightening. "Who's that?" she asked the intern beside her. The girl leaned in. "You don't know." Sage shook her head. "That's Juliet Sinclair, Damian's ex." Juliet, the woman who used to grace the covers of business magazines beside him, the one he dated when the company was going public, the one with the icy smile and the sharp red nails. Sage's mouth went dry. She didn't belong in the same sentence as that woman, much less the same building. Juliet swept past the receptionist like she owned the floor and disappeared into the elevator without waiting for permission. Sage wanted to ignore it. She tried to, but an hour later, when she walked into Damian's office to drop off the weekly schedule, Juliet was sitting on the edge of his desk, laughing softly at something only the two of them understood. Damian stood behind her, arms crossed, jaw tight, unreadable. He looked up when he saw Sage, almost startled. "Sage," he said. "This is Juliet." "I know," Sage replied. "The schedule you asked for." Juliet turned, looked Sage up and down once, then smiled like she knew something no one else did. "You must be the assistant." Sage nodded, lips pressed tight. "And you must be the warning label." Juliet laughed. "Oh, she's got some bite. That's adorable." Sage handed Damian the papers. "If you need anything else, I'll be at my desk." "Wait," Damian started, but she was already gone. For the rest of the day, she kept her head down, her mouth shut, and her hands busy. She didn't ask what Juliet wanted. She didn't care, except she did. And when she caught a glimpse of Juliet leaving 3 hours later, sunglasses on, phone in hand, smile smug, Sage's gut twisted again. That night, Damian called. She didn't answer. A text followed. "Can I come over?" She stared at it for 5 minutes before typing back, "Don't think that's a good idea tonight." He didn't reply. The next morning, he was waiting for her in the hallway, outside the executive suite. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept, like something had cracked. "To Sage, I didn't know she was coming." "Okay." She showed up unannounced. She always does this. Tries to stir the pot when she knows I've moved on. Sage crossed her arms. "Did you tell her about us?" He paused. "No, not yet." "Why not?" "Because I don't know what us is yet." That hit harder than she expected. "I see." "Sage, it's fine," she said. Voice steady. "You're allowed to have a past. I just didn't know." It still walked into your office like it owned the place. She turned to walk away. He didn't stop her. That weekend, photos leaked. Juliet and Damian together, leaving the building, looking like a power couple from 3 years ago. The caption? "Are Holston and Sinclair rekindling their empire?" Sage stared at the image until her eyes burned. And that night, she made a decision. She turned off her phone, closed her email, and shut down the part of her that had started to believe this could be something real. On the other side of the city, Damian sat in the back of a car, scrolling through the photos too. He didn't recognize the man in the picture beside Juliet. He didn't want to be that man again. But the woman he wanted wasn't returning his calls. And for the first time in years, he was scared he'd already lost the only real thing that had ever found him. Chapter 6. When distance starts to hurt. Sage didn't quit. She just disappeared. She showed up to work on time, did her job, answered emails, took meetings, but she stopped bringing coffee to Damian's office, stopped pausing when their paths crossed in the hall, stopped looking at him like he mattered. And somehow, that was worse than if she had yelled. Damian noticed it all, The way her smile stopped reaching her eyes. The way she sat at the farthest end of the table during meetings. The way her voice became so professional, it could have been AI generated. I lost her, he thought, sitting in his penthouse alone one night, scrolling through a dozen unsent messages. And I don't even know which part of the truth broke us. Sage tried to pretend she didn't care. She went out with coworkers, let one of them walk her home, laughed too loud at jokes she didn't find funny. But late at night, in the quiet, her chest ached like something unfinished. Because the truth was, she missed him, missed the version of herself she only seemed to find around him. And the silence between them wasn't healing, it was punishment. The viral video was still circulating. Clips of the practice kiss, played in edits with romantic music and slow fades. People were still rooting for them. But the real Sage and Damian, they weren't even talking. One afternoon, Kara pulled Sage aside after a meeting. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," Sage lead. Kara crossed her arms. "You do know, I've worked PR for 20 years, right? I know what pretending looks like." Sage didn't answer. Kara sighed. "You care about him. He kissed his past," Sage whispered, "while I was trying to believe I could be part of his future." "Then tell him that. It's not that simple." "It's never simple," Kara said, "but distance doesn't heal what silence protects." That night, Damian showed up outside Sage's apartment building. He didn't text, didn't call, just stood there, in the rain, with a look that said please. Sage stepped outside, hoodie on, arms crossed, heart pounding. "What are you doing here?" "Trying not to lose you." "You already did." He took a breath. "Juliet kissed me." "Sage, I didn't want it. I didn't ask for it, and I sure as hell didn't feel anything." She looked away. "But you didn't tell her about me either." "Because I didn't know what we were yet. And the truth is, I've never been in anything real before. Not like this." "And what is this?" "It's me. Terrified of getting it wrong, of hurting you, of wanting you more than I've ever wanted anything." Silence fell. The rain kept falling, soft and steady, and then he stepped closer. "But if I have to spend the rest of my life proving to you that it was never pretend, I will." Sage looked up at him, eyes full, heart torn. "You hurt me, Damian. I know. You made me feel like I was nothing. You're everything." She didn't say anything more, but she didn't step away when he reached for her hand, either. And when their fingers finally touched, it was the first time in weeks she felt steady again. Sometimes, it's not the absence that breaks you. It's the knowing they're still out there, and they don't even know how to come back. But Damian Holston did, and this time, he wasn't letting her slip away without a fight. Chapter 7. The Gala that changed everything. The annual Holston Foundation Gala was supposed to be business. Tuxedos, speeches, donors, with diamond watches and polished smiles. But this year, it felt like something else. Because for the first time since the world watched them almost kiss in a rehearsal room, Sage and Damian would be walking into the spotlight together. Sage stood in front of her apartment mirror, tugging nervously at the neckline of a black satin dress that fit like a second skin. "This was a terrible idea," she whispered to herself. "I look like a guest who got lost trying to find the coat check." But when she stepped outside, Damian was waiting in a black suit that didn't just fit, it commanded. And when he saw her, he stopped breathing for a second. "You look," he tried, voice catching, "like you're about to ruin every man's night here, except mine." She blushed, still good at rehearsed lines. "I see. That one wasn't rehearsed." The car ride was quiet, comfortable, the kind of silence that feels like a shared secret. "You sure about this?" Sage asked softly. "No," Damian admitted, "but I'm sure about you." And somehow, that was enough. The moment they entered the ballroom, the temperature seemed to shift. Heads turned, phones lifted, flashes blinked. Sage could hear the murmurs ripple like a tide. "That's The assistant, they're together now. Guess the rumors were true. She tightened her grip on Damian's arm. I feel like a headline again. Then let's give them something worth writing about. The Gala swirled around them, glass clinks, soft jazz, silk dresses brushing past. But Damian never let go of her hand, not once. He introduced her to CEOs, board members, donors, and every time he said her name, it sounded like it belonged in rooms like this. Sage Monroe. My. He paused once, then finished. The woman who changed everything. Near the end of the night, Kara pulled Sage aside by the champagne tower. You did it. Did what? You made him real to people. And if I disappear tomorrow, Kara smiled, then I hope he realizes he'd be the one disappearing, not you. Damian found her a few minutes later on the balcony, away from the noise, city lights behind her, his jacket over her shoulders. You okay? She nodded. I think I'm finally breathing. He stepped closer. You know, they're all watching. Right. Let them. She turned to face him, hair catching the wind. If this is the moment everything changes, I want to choose it. And then right there, under the stars, in front of the cameras and the whispers, he kissed her, not softly, not carefully, like it was real, like it always had been. The photo hit the internet before they even made it back inside. By midnight, it was everywhere. Damian Holston, billionaire CEO, kissing his assistant on the balcony of the most powerful room in New York. The caption read, no longer a rumor, no longer pretending. Later that night, curled beside him in the back seat of the car, Sage rested her head against his shoulder. You didn't have to kiss me in front of them, she whispered. I wasn't kissing them, he said. I was kissing the only thing I've ever been afraid to lose. And as the car pulled away into the dark, she realized something. The moment you stop pretending is the moment everything finally becomes true. Chapter 8. The lie that almost ended it all. Love doesn't end in a moment. It unravels, thread by thread, word by word, until all that's left is silence. And a question no one wants to answer. Were you ever telling me the truth? That's the question Sage found herself asking. After the letter, it arrived in a plain envelope. No return address, just her name in slanted handwriting. She opened it out of habit, and by the third line, her hands were shaking. Inside was a scanned legal document, an NDA, her name listed, and a check unclaimed, unsigned, dated 6 weeks ago. The same week she'd started helping Damian with the rehearsal scenes. The same week the kiss went viral. The letter was unsigned, but typed beneath the document was a single sentence. They paid you to fall for him. Did he forget to mention that? Sage sat frozen at her desk. The walls around her blurred. The silence screamed. That night, Damian knocked on her door like nothing had changed. He brought takeout, her favorite kind, smiling like a man who didn't know the world was burning behind him. What's this? She asked, holding up the envelope. He looked at it, blinked, and then the change in his face gave her the answer before his words ever did. Sage, I can explain. Start with the truth. Kara drafted it. After the video went viral, she thought we needed a fallback plan in case things spiraled. Did you approve it? He hesitated. Yes. And that's when the air between them broke. So what was I? She asked, voice shaking. A project, a risk, a marketing strategy. No, God, Sage, you were never that. I didn't cash it. I didn't use it. It wasn't supposed to go to you, but it existed. He didn't speak. And sometimes silence tells you more than words ever could. She handed the paper back to him. I would have forgiven 1,000 things, but not this. Please, just listen. You should go. Damian, Sage, before I say something I can't take back. He stepped back slowly, pain etched in every line of his face. I didn't fall for you because of a plan, he said softly. I fell because you saw me when I didn't even recognize myself. Then maybe you should have fought for that version of me. not the one in your headlines. She closed the door, and when it latched behind him, her knees gave out, not from anger, but from the ache of losing something that had finally started to feel like home. The internet kept spinning. The video kept circulating. But Sage went quiet. No interviews, no appearances, no more late nights beside Damian's fireplace. She buried herself in work, filed papers like armor, smiled like fiction, but nothing dulled the feeling that love, when laced with lies, leaves the deepest wound. Damian tried everything: texts, calls, a handwritten letter delivered by courier, but she didn't answer. Because sometimes it's not about how loudly someone knocks. It's about what they were hiding behind the door in the first place. Sage stared out the window one night, clutching a cup of cold tea, watching the city lights blink like tiny lies in the dark. She had trusted him. She had let him in. But the one thing she needed more than love was truth. And Damian Holston had given her everything, except that Chapter 9, the grand gesture that wasn't about winning her back. Weeks passed, not loudly, not dramatically, but in the way heartbreak always does, slow and quiet and impossible to forget. Sage got up. She worked. She laughed in front of people, but her chest stayed hollow, like something had moved out and left the lights on. Damian disappeared, not publicly. He was still on magazine covers, investor calls, headlines, but privately, he went silent. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits, just nothing. It should have made her angry. Instead, it made her wonder, has he moved on? Did I mean that little? And yet, there was a strange peace in the quiet, until her boss pulled her into a meeting room on a Tuesday and said, "Did you hear about what he did?" Sage blinked. What? Who did? Holston. He turned down the Forbes interview, and the exclusive Netflix doc said he wasn't the story anymore. That afternoon, curiosity got the better of her. She searched his name, scrolled past the gossip, past the speculation, and there it was, a press release buried beneath the noise. CEO, Damian Holston donates 8-figure sum to fund women-owned startups, mentorships, and mental health care in honor of someone who reminded me that silence isn't strength and visibility isn't vanity. It's courage. No big press tour, no social media announcement, just one quiet gesture and one sentence that stopped her heart. To the woman who taught me that love doesn't need a spotlight to be real, Sage sat in the quiet of her apartment, letter still clutched in her hands. She hadn't asked him to prove anything. She hadn't wanted anything anymore. But somehow, the gesture hit harder than flowers or apologies ever could. Because this wasn't about winning her back. It was about who he was when no one was watching. A week later, she walked past a local nonprofit she used to volunteer at before life got busy. There, painted on the new entry wall, was a quote, "The world changes when someone finally listens." The plaque underneath read, "Donated by Holston and Roth, in honor of S.M." She didn't cry. She just stood there for a long time, breathing. That night, she opened her journal, not to write about him, but to write about herself. "I'm still healing," she wrote, "but I'm starting to believe that maybe love doesn't always return as a grand apology. Sometimes it returns as someone who finally becomes the person you believed they could be." The next morning, she found a letter in her mailbox. No envelope, just her name, written in the handwriting she already knew by heart. Inside was one sentence: "I'm not asking for a second chance. I'm asking if you'll let me keep becoming the man you saw when no one else did." She didn't text him back that night, but she did walk into work the next day, wearing the same scarf she wore the first time they kissed. And as she passed his office, he looked up. Their eyes met, and for the first time in weeks, they both smiled. not to fix the past, but because maybe the future still had something beautiful waiting. Chapter 10. The kind of love that doesn't need a script. It was a Tuesday morning when Sage found the courage to knock on his door. Not his penthouse, not his office, but the little cabin tucked into the trees, the one where they'd first kissed like no one was watching. She half expected him not to answer, to have moved on, to have returned to the world where assistants didn't steal the hearts of billionaire CEOs. But when the door opened, he looked at her like a man who had never stopped hoping. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey, I was in the neighborhood. 3 hours out of the neighborhood." She smiled. "I needed a long drive." He stepped aside without a word, and she walked in like it was still theirs. The fire wasn't lit. The kitchen smelled like coffee and late mornings, and the air between them hummed with everything unsaid. "I got your letter," she said, turning to face him. "I meant every word. You didn't ask for forgiveness." "No," he said, "because I don't deserve it. But I do want to be better. Even if it's not for us, I want to be better because of you." Her voice cracked. "What if it is for us?" They sat on the old leather couch, not touching, not rushing, just breathing in the silence that finally felt safe. "I was scared," she admitted, "of being used, of being a phase, of being the poor girl who fell for a man she could never keep." "You were never the poor girl," Damian said gently. "You were the truth in a room full of mirrors, and I don't want a world that doesn't include you." She swallowed hard. "I don't want a love that needs fixing." "Then let's build one that doesn't." He reached for her hand, not urgently, not desperately, just real. "No scripts," he said. "No press," she replied. "No pretending. No more lies." And for the first time, their kiss wasn't about proving anything. It wasn't about the company, or the cameras, or the people waiting to dissect their story. It was just them, two broken people who had found something soft enough to heal in each other. They stayed in the cabin for 3 days. No phones, no interviews, just firelight, shared coffee, and whispered apologies that turned into laughter. They read books aloud. He cooked, she burned toast. He didn't mind, and when she fell asleep on the couch one night, he didn't wake her. He just covered her with a blanket and whispered, "This is the only thing that ever felt unscripted and still perfect." On the last morning, she stood by the window, mug in hand. "What happens now?" she asked. "We live," he said simply. "No more pretending. No more waiting for the world to approve." "You think they'll believe us?" He smiled, kissed her temple. "I don't care if they do. We know the truth, and that's enough." Some love stories begin with sparks, some with fate, and some begin when two people stop pretending long enough to tell the truth. This one started with a fake kiss, but ended in a love too real to script. Love that doesn't ask for permission. It wasn't the kiss that changed her life. It wasn't the dress, or the gala, or the fact that he was a billionaire CEO. It was the way he looked at her when no one was watching, when the cameras were off, when there was nothing left to gain. That's the kind of love that stays, the kind that doesn't need a script, because it was never acting to begin with. Sage never wanted the spotlight. She wanted quiet mornings, hands that held gently, a place where she could be seen, not staged. And Damian, he had spent years building an empire, only to find the one thing worth keeping was a woman who never asked for more than the truth. Not status, not wealth, just him. They didn't rush into forever. They took walks, shared burnt toast, fell asleep during movies no one finished, and in the stillness, they found something people spend a lifetime searching for. A love that doesn't perform. It just is. We hope this story touched your heart the way true love always should. Tell us, what are your thoughts on this story? Leave a comment and rate it from 0 to 10 below. And if you believe in quiet, honest love. Don't miss out. Click here to watch more now. Subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss our latest stories. Wherever you are tonight, we hope you feel seen, loved, and reminded that the right person will never make you feel like you're too much or not enough.